Hi there, welcome to the first paragliding video of my channel. Today we're taking the Mentor 7 for a ride all the way to Annecy, which makes for a little ICSI triangle that will be great as my first ICSI on this wing. The takeoff could have used a bit more brakes, but it is still under control, so everything is fine. Getting into the pod was a bit tricky, but I'm confident I'll get the hang of it very quickly. The first step is to get to the other side of the Aravis range in order to benefit from the wind and follow the ridge line. Beautiful, isn't it? Having his head in the clouds. Anyway, like I said, the wind was very strong on the other side. It was coming from the northeast, and because of that, the thermals on the west side were completely killed by the wind that was just going down the slopes on this side. This made the situation very tricky because I couldn't just rely on soaring to get where I wanted, so I had to find the thermal that would get me to cloud base, hoping that cloud base would be enough for me to pass by these mountains without having to stop. And trust me on this, it took forever. It took like 3 hours until I could finally start my sea flight, which may seem like a lot, but since we're in spring and chairlifts are closed, you just want to make the most out of every flight because you have to get to your takeoff by foot, and therefore you don't want to land too early and waste all these efforts. So here I was still trying to get altitude to pass this obstacle and getting back into the clouds, which was a formidable moment, as you can see. I think it is very amazing watching the scenery appear in front of your very eyes. And here I was trying to cross this obstacle once again, which ended up in yet another failure. But I could feel the thermals were bringing me higher and higher each time I tried, so the moments where I could cross this valley was bound to happen very soon. And it was barely enough to cross this ridge, and very surprisingly, once on the other side it was not very turbulent. And then I made a big mistake, which still shows I'm a beginner, is that I was piloting with the brakes while being full speed, which is a big mistake because usually you do it with the sea risers because the brakes are not adapted to high speed piloting. But I learned from my mistake and I won't do it again. So here I managed to find a thermal that allowed me to continue my ICSI flight, which is not something insignificant, knowing I've just spent 4 hours trying to get there, and then it was time for the fun parts, soaring on the east side, benefiting from the wind that was just so annoying for the first part of the flights, and now it was just all good, all beautiful. Everything went perfectly fine. This transition was as easy as it can get, and no difficulty whatsoever. However, I faced the very same problem I had at the beginning of this flight, which is the fact that the wind is still coming from the same direction. But I decided to go to the west anyway because Landing options on the other side were very complicated, and my home is on this side, so it will be way easier to get back home if by any chance I was to land earlier than expected. Thankfully, I managed to find both wind to do a bit of soaring as well as thermals that were just good enough to allow me to get to the other one. The mountain that you can see right in France, still covered in snow, is La Tournette, which is our next goal since Annecy Lake is right behind this mountain, as well as Blanfay and all the other very famous destinations. Usually it is very difficult once you get there because you're just under the wind from the lake, but since today the wind is coming from behind, it was just great for proximity flying, doing soaring with the birds. It was all beautiful. This is my favorite type of flying, close to the rocks. And I couldn't explain why, but even when soaring, I just couldn't get to the top of the mountain. Thermals as well as soaring just stopped working once I got close to it, so I decided to proceed to the next turning point, which is over Blanfay. This part of the flight is the most famous one because many pilots from all over the world and Europe especially come here to fly, since it is a beautiful scenery with the lake and the mountains all around it. So I took in the scenery but didn't stop since cloud base was below me, and that way I managed to join the Parmelan immediately without struggle, and I will let you with this footage that I find very beautiful. I found a strong thermal here that was just too good to be true. It took me right to cloud base once again, and I could just enjoy this evening flying high above the ground all the way to the other side of the Parmelan and then back to where I was. Tell me how it could get better than this. Honestly, the scenery is just too good to be true. And here goes the final glide.